All right, good day, everybody. This is E. Marcel Pertut, and welcome to another edition of the Technical State of Georgia Athletics podcast. I'm glad that you're joining us today on March 6th, 2021. This is a podcast focused specifically on all things college athletics in the metro Atlanta area. As always, if you want to follow everything that we're doing, you can head to our Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook pages on social media under Sports Inquirer. That's all one word. And also go to your podcast audio provider on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and various others. And just search for us, The Sports Inquirer, and you will find us and get everything that we are doing. On today's broadcast, we're going to preview the upcoming matchups for Georgia State in men's and women's basketball in the Sun Belt Tournament. We will break down the men's basketball and women's basketball wins for Georgia Tech that happened last night, one in the conference tournament in the ACC and one to wrap up ACC regular season play. We'll preview the upcoming season or the spring season for Georgia Tech volleyball with our chat with Michelle Collier, the head coach of the team. We'll also look at beach volleyball at Georgia State and Georgia State baseball and Georgia State softball. So a lot going on today's show. We'll start with the previews of upcoming contests today on March 6th for Georgia State basketball. We're starting the men's side of things. The Panthers are riding a six-game winning streak and enter the Sun Belt Conference Tournament as the number one overall or number one seed out of the Eastern Division. They're going to face Arkansas State today, as set on March 6th. And once again, they're entering that game on a season high winning streak, and they are the number one seed for the sixth time in program history. Three out of those five previous times, they have advanced the NCAA tournament by winning the Sun Belt tournament, including the last one in 2019. I was able to speak with Coach Rob Lanier, head coach of the Panthers, as they head into the Sun Belt tournament. And here's what he had to say.
Some of our best basketball. We haven't played our best yet, but we've played our best so far. But we still got some significant improvements that we can make. And so this week has been important for us to make sure that they're aware that there's some areas that we need to improve on, because sometimes you can get caught feeling good about yourself this time of year in a one bid league and get tripped up because you get ahead of yourselves thinking that you're a finished product when you're not quite there. And so important week for us. I think the guys have the right approach and the right mentality, and barring any potential setbacks, with this season has been proven they could pop up on you, but barring any such surprises, we feel good going into the tournament that we can continue to build on the improvements that we've made over the last couple of weeks.
Now, Georgia State enters the tournament with a 14-5 mark, which is tied for the second best start to a season in program history. And that's despite missing 9 games of postponements and cancellations due to the COVID-19 protocols that all of us have been dealing with, but it's been hit very hard, or it's been a very big focus in college athletics. Here is Coach Lanier on his feel for the team heading into the tournament.
Well, I've always felt that I had a sense for what our identity is and should be, and what our potential is. I think the changes and the disruptions in the season have kind of changed the trajectory, and getting back on course. Certainly, what it is we set out to do, the roles of the guys on the team, and how good we could be if everybody bought into that stuff. Like I've said to the group before, we were kind of cruising along prior to Christmas, and you could see the development of our team. And then after Christmas, it was one thing after another, where we just didn't have our full group together for enough time to continue to build on and develop the habits that you want to develop over the course of a season as a team. And fortunately, we've had the group together now for the past couple of weeks, and we're starting to realize some of that growth that we had envisioned back prior to Christmas. So we always, I think as a staff, had a sense for, at our best, this is how good we can be. And we just happen to be in a space now where we have an opportunity to realize that potential, but there's still some growth ahead of us. And that can happen this week in practice. It could happen through the experiences of the games we can have this weekend. We can just keep getting better. And I think our guys are tuned in to where we are and what needs to get done.
Now, the unique part about the tournament is that the Panthers have faced only Eastern Division teams in the Sun Belt all through the year. That switches up today when they finally face their first opponent from the Western Division in Arkansas State. Here is Coach Lanier on how the team has been preparing to face non-Eastern Division teams in this tournament.
Well, first of all, Marcel, I'm glad to have you asking a question this week. You know, kind of bailed out on us last week, so it's good to have you. You know what? It is a unique year in that regard. You know, it's funny because I do talk to coaches on the other side because I'm the chair of the coaches, the Sun Belt coaches. Marlon kind of pushed me into that involuntarily. And Chris Ogden is a guy I coached in college. You know, I coached him when he was a sophomore for 2 years. I talked to TJ Johnson a lot. And so, you know, but I really haven't watched those teams play. Sometimes just during the course of the year, you'll watch a team play because they're playing against your upcoming opponent, and then you play them. And so we haven't had that dynamic this year. I've caught parts of games, and I've tried not to watch those teams, to be honest with you, because we had enough to worry about on this side. So I didn't want to get preoccupied with how good Texas State is and how good these other teams are. I just wanted to focus on what was in front of us. And now, in recent days, I've watched Arkansas State because they're a potential opponent. And obviously, we're familiar with Georgia Southern, and that's been our focus. And whoever else is on the other side of the bracket, if there's a chance we'll see him in the championship, then I'll see him when we get there. But yeah, you're right. I'm not as familiar with the teams as you would be in a normal year.
And as I said, the Panthers from the men's side, for men's basketball, will be playing the Arkansas State later on today. The Georgia State women's basketball team is also in the conference tournament for the Sun Belt, and they are the number 2 seed out of the Eastern Division. They're a 2 seed for the first time since 2001, and they will face Little Rock from the Western Division in their semifinal contest today, later on March 6th. The Panthers are 4-2 all time as the number 2 seed, and the last time they were the 2 seed was in 2001, which was they ended up winning the conference tournament for the first of 3 consecutive appearances in the NCAA tournament. I had an exclusive interview with head coach of the Georgia State Panthers women's basketball team, Gene Hill, and here he is discussing the tournament and all things tied to it. The team ended the regular season on a good note, winning 76-64 over South Alabama to conclude the regular season. Several players in double figures in scoring: Taylor Hosendove, Joel Johnson, Taylor Henderson as well. Just overall impressions of that game and how the team concluded the regular season.
Well, really excited, to be able to win 3 in a row there, to clinch the second seed. Just a great focus and great performance from our players and staff. I felt like that last game, to come out and how we defended and executed on defense. And then came out on the other end and really made plays when we had to make plays. I could think of a number of kids, Taylor Henderson making a big 3, some other kids making big shots and everything. And that's what it's really about, during this time. It's about executing on both ends of the floor and just, making sure that you're getting it done. You got to right now. This is the fun time right now. It's tournament time. So I'm really excited about how we ended.
Yeah, and what about just your team? You mentioned Taylor and the 2 Taylors and Hannah Sadler. She's scored double figures multiple times. Even Kamryn from your guard spot. What about having 3-4 players at a time that can get double digits for you? What about that balance on the offensive end?
Well, yeah, that's how the team was built, and we've talked about that over and over, is that when we can have multiple players scoring in double figures, it makes us tougher to defend. It makes us for the players, it's funner. It's more fun to play when everyone is partaking and being involved versus just watching one person the whole game. And so I'm really excited that we're starting to see that because when you're preparing for a scout, when you have to focus on one, that's one thing. But when you have to focus on 4 or 5 kids and everything, it makes it more difficult. So really excited that people are kind of falling into their roles and getting accustomed to what they can do in their spots and really stepping up to get it done.
Yeah, you finished your regular season with 9 conference wins, and you have the second seed for the first time since 2001. So we've talked throughout the season the adversity you've overcome on and off the court, just with players not being available, and obviously on the court stuff, just playing the games themselves. What does that say about your unit to have such a successful regular season, all things considered?
Well, we knew when we recruited each and every one of these young ladies that they had a lot of talent. And it was about now just being able to stick it out and grow together. And that's what we talked about from day one, that, we wanted to be a unit that, that when things got difficult, we didn't run. Players don't boat out and try to transfer. Coaches don't boat and overreact and try to get rid of kids and everything. We're all in this together, and we're gonna go through this growth process together. And that's what this whole year has been about. Going through the ups and downs, whether they're off the court, whether you're dealing with COVID or some of the social injustice we had this year, or dealing with just the year, a basketball season and the academics and all the other things and stuff. So really excited that we was able to finish second in our division and overcome all those things. It really gives us a bright future, a glimpse of what we can do if we have a full season and continue to grow and everything. So really excited about just the effort and everything that the players and the staff have done this year. Can't even praise them enough. Also my staff. I mean, from each and every one of Coach Hall, Coach Morton, Coach Baker, Director Ops, the GAs, the trainers, strength and coach, just everyone really doing their part and stepping up this year to make sure that we have a lot of success this year.
Do you feel this is maybe one of the closer teams you've had just as a unit, from the players to the coaching staff, because of all the circumstances? Do you have just a better feel of your unit because you've been forced to really band together through everything that's been going on?
Yeah, no question. Since we've been here, no question, this is the closest. I mean, obviously, we have kids who are not only great kids and typical kids, and that they're gonna have some good days and bad days, but we're starting to learn each other, and we're starting to show compassion for each other, and I think and understanding for each other, but still holding each other accountable. And I think when you can start getting kids to do those things and everything, have compassion for each other, and still hold people accountable and everything, I think you could start developing stuff. You start developing trust, and anytime you get trust, you could grow as a program. And so, yeah, I'm really excited just about how things are going with each one of the young ladies, how they're working, and just how the staff is pushing them. And that's the main thing. You have to develop that trust so that they can allow the coaches to push them and coach them. And I think we're getting that now.
Let's move on to the conference tournament itself. With that number 2 seed, you're going to face either Little Rock or Coastal Carolina to start off the tournament on Saturday. I've been asking other coaches about this. You haven't played any of the Western teams from the Sun Belt. Have you? How does that affect your scouting preparation? If you get a Little Rock, you've seen Coastal a few times, but have you been able to watch any of the Western Conference teams? Have you had any? Just how do you prepare for
Yeah.
some teams you haven't really seen at all this year?
Well, obviously, yeah, I haven't seen the West as much as I would probably in a typical year, but I have been able to watch a couple of their games. I saw Little Rock play during non-conference, and I've seen a little bit of their a couple of their conference games, and obviously this week we watched some. But it is different, but I think it's different on both sides. Traditionally, people always say it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a year. Now we could potentially face Coastal Carolina and be the 4th time that we've played them, although we've beat them 3 times. But I think they still, they're accustomed to what we do. They're probably grown with their confidence, and they feel like they can beat us. And if they can, if we don't come out and play, And the same thing on with Little Rock, neither one of us have played each other. Little Rock has traditionally been one of the top teams in the conference. Joe is the dean of the league. Coaches, he's always done a great job and just well coached. But this is tournament time. You just got to be excited about the opportunity, regardless of who you're playing. You got to come out with the same focus and forget about what's happened in the regular season, what's happened in the past, and all those things. It's about 40 minutes right there. You have to come ready to play for those 40 minutes, and that's what we're trying to get our kids to understand, regardless of who the opponent is.
Yeah, and what's the next few days like for you? Are you going to travel day of the game, day before? I know you've had to deal with all these different. You've done all those, I'm sure, at some point this year. How are you handling preparation for the conference tournament?
Obviously, we'll leave tomorrow, so we'll go down, we'll practice here and then leave after, later. And then, so we'll have a day in Pensacola on Friday to practice and kind of, rest our legs and get prepared for a Saturday game. But you're right. We've done everything, and we went back and forth on what should we do this trip. But we just felt like, kind of getting there and everything, maybe, and getting the kids a little settled and all that stuff would be a good idea and stuff. But, we've practiced this week, and we've kind of obviously focused on us more, just showing up things and trying to make sure you all of the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, all those things as far as execution. And then obviously as a coach, you look ahead and you think about things, whether if you see a Little Rock or things that coaches have done that gave you trouble, and you may work on those things in practice, but without talking about we're preparing for either one of those opponents and stuff. So we've done all of that. And but again, it's just you're not going to spend 3 hours on the court during this time of the year, especially if you get where you want to be. You got to play 3 games in a row, and so you don't want to wear your legs out this week early and stuff.
We were also able to speak with the sophomore guard, Kamryn Dziak, from the Georgia State Panthers women's basketball team, and a similar discussion about the conference tournament upcoming, her contributions to the team, and a little bit about her recruitment process to attend Georgia State. The squad has finished the regular season on a high note with a 76-64 win over South Alabama a few days ago. Just thoughts on that victory and heading into just ending the regular season with the win.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great win for us and that week really was a great way to end the regular season for us. I think just as a season as a whole, you can tell comparing it to last year how much we've grown, like not only individually, but as a team. So I'm really proud of us and how much growth we've shown for this season.
What do you think has led to that growth and improvement just this season compared to your freshman campaign?
Yeah, I mean, last year obviously had a lot of new faces come in, so I think it took a little time for us to really gel together as a team. And I think the second year of us all really being together shows how we kind of got better as a whole group.
Yeah, and then what about you and your contributions to the team? You play a lot of contests. You're around a large amount of scores. But you seem to be you're a very integral part of keeping everything together. What do you see your role with the team and just your development as a player?
Yeah, I mean, us coming in last year and playing as a freshman was just kind of a year to, I feel like, to feel it out and get used to playing college basketball. And now this year, I feel like I have much more confidence in my game, obviously shooting the ball and also being able to drive and do some other things too this year.
Yeah, I spoke with Coach Hill earlier today, and he says this is probably the closest team, one of the closest teams he's ever been around, just through everything the squad has been going through on and off the court. Do you feel that way yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially this year being just a crazy year in general with COVID and also all the things that have happened off the court with our team, with some of our coaches and people. Like, I think it's really brought us together. And I think you can see that on the court too.
Yeah, how have you and the team just dealt with the pandemic? Different practice situations, different game schedule. How has the team just stayed together and adjusted and having one of your best campaigns in a very long time?
Yeah, I think especially with COVID, we've been taking everything one day at a time. We've been trying to be more present and saying, like, we're playing for the next game and not trying to look too far ahead into the future because a lot of stuff is unknown.
Yeah, and now the team is preparing for the conference tournament. You have the number two seed, which is the highest seed since 2001. Just how have the past few days been going for the squad and getting ready to head down to Florida and play in the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, we're really excited. Like I said, I think you can see from our placement last year, we didn't even go to the tournament, and now we're the second seed. I think, again, that shows how much we've grown, and we're all just really excited and we're ready to go and compete and hopefully pull out a win.
Yeah, and how out of prep it's very different this year because you may face some teams from the Western Division that you haven't even seen all year, or you could face, for example, Coastal Carolina, who you've already faced three times. How's the team prepare for those type of situations?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our preparation is honestly just about us, making sure like we're ready instead of focusing on our opponent. But like I said, we're really just taking it one game at a time, focusing on who we're going to play next and preparing that way.
Yeah, and doing my research, you're from the state of Ohio and everything like that. I'm sure you had some other places to consider. Why Georgia State? It seemed like that's a very unique place to go from your prep background.
Yeah, during my recruitment, I really wanted to go to the city. And obviously, when Atlanta came along and I actually got to come here and go on my official visit, I knew that I wanted to come here and be a part of it.
And what's it been like spending the past 2 years in Atlanta and getting used to the southern part of the country?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's very different where I'm from. I'm from very small town, Ohio, and coming here, it's just like completely different being in the big city, being far away from home. But I really do love it.
What are some places you've enjoyed going to or experiencing in Atlanta?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a lot of our time is spent here and on campus and stuff, but sometimes we went to like Top Golf and just restaurants around the city have been really nice.
And we thank Coach Hill and Cameron for speaking with us. And once again, the Panthers are going to face Little Rock later on today on March 6th. Now, the men's basketball, let's move on to Georgia Tech. Their men's basketball team concluded a very solid regular season with a 75-63 victory at Wake Forest on March 5th. Michael DeVoe had a game high 20 points on 8 of 10 shooting, and that victory gave it was a sixth consecutive victory for Georgia Tech, and they're now sit at 15-8 overall, 11-6 in the ACC. They can finish no worse than fifth place in the ACC for the second straight year. So once again, that was a very solid conclusion to their regular season. We'll break that game down a little bit further in our next edition of the show as they prepare for the ACC tournament. But that was a very good win for Georgia Tech to conclude their regular season, and they are going to enter the ACC tournament on a very high note. Now, the Georgia Tech women's basketball team is already in the conference tournament for the ACC, and they won their quarterfinal matchup against Clemson last night on March 5th, 60-57. So Georgia Tech has secured its first ACC tournament semifinals appearance since 2012. And highlights of the game: Three Jackets finished in double figures, led by Kiara Fletcher, the senior guard, with a team high 21 points. And Georgia Tech had a solid shooting night overall, shot 46.3% from the field. Sluggish start to the contest. Both teams are barely in double digits through the first quarter. And but Georgia Tech was able to fend off a very feisty Clemson team that was a battle throughout that contest. And other highlights for Georgia Tech: McQueen had 14 points. Lorelai Kubaj had a double double with a game high 18 rebounds and 12 points. And yet the Jackets, who are the 3 seed, are now going to face North Carolina State, the 2nd seed in the conference tournament. And that game takes place also on March 6th. March 6th is very busy. Today's a busy day for us watching basketball, but we're very excited about watching all of that. Now, another team that is kind of starting, well, not ending their season, but revamping their campaign is Georgia Tech Volleyball. The Jackets entered spring season carrying an overall record and conference record of 7-1. After losing their season opener, and it is all during the fall, and now they're preparing for their spring season, if I didn't make that clear. So they're 7-1 in the fall, and they lost their season opener in 5 sets in the fall at Miami, but they concluded the regular season with 7 consecutive wins, including sweeps of Florida State, Wake Forest, and Clemson. And dating back to 2019, Georgia Tech has won 25 of their last 27 matches. So they're nationally ranked in the top 20, and they get back at it this weekend against Virginia and Pittsburgh. And those matches are in Pittsburgh. They're doing pod setups, so teams are gathering in one area, one city, and kind of doing a round robin or playing each other while they're in the city. So the Georgia Tech starts off going to Pittsburgh. But I was able to speak with head coach Michelle Collier about the spring return and what it means for the team.
Yeah, just excited to get going again. We've been practicing for a couple weeks now, so it's nice to be able to, get going against some opponents on the other side. I think the girls have done a great job, not just the girls, but I think our whole Georgia Tech volleyball family and the athletic department has done a good job of giving us the opportunity to be safe and compete and get better. So we're just grateful for that and looking forward to continuing what we started in the fall.
Now, this is a unique offseason, or was a unique offseason for Georgia Tech volleyball. Normally, they would have played all their matches in the fall, taken the winter break, Christmas, Thanksgiving, all that stuff, and New Year, and then gotten back together to practice in the fall, like their off season, and maybe play a handful of matches, exhibitions against some other teams. But that's not the case this year. They had a short fall season. They took that break, and now they're heading back to the second half of their regular season and preparing for the NCAA tournament and everything like that. So I spoke with Michelle about this unique off season.
Yeah, it's definitely been a little bit different, but I think for everybody, so no excuses here. I think that we just gotta do our best with kind of the scenario that we have, and they had some time after the fall season to go home and to kind of decompress a little bit. They did a great job in the fall, staying in the bubble, just staying really safe, really focusing on volleyball and academics. So the break gave them a little bit of time to reconnect with their families, to finish out their studies. And then, they had a great semester last year in school. And then we got them back in the middle of January, and we started a little bit with our 8 hours, so our off-season segment. So we're able to just kind of slowly get them back in. I think it's been great. Our trainer, our strength coach, just our staff. I think that we've done a tremendous job of keeping everybody healthy. Everybody really getting really strong, focusing in a weight room, focusing on getting better. Obviously, this is a different off season. We don't have as much time to work on technical things and individual things as we would on a normal spring. But we are getting ready to compete, and so we're just kind of doing what we need to do to be at our best this weekend. It's been a little bit different, but I think that the girls have embraced it, and our staff has embraced it, and we're doing the best we can with the cards that we've been dealt. So.
Now, as a team, Georgia Tech currently leads the ACC and is ranked ninth in the nation in hitting percentage. They have a very strong group of outside hitters and middles, including, well, and we'll get to two of them in a moment. But let's hear from Michelle about the overall depth of the team.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been pretty consistent with our lineup for over the past 2 years, but we do have great depth on our team that if needed, players have stepped up and come in and helped us win matches, in the fall, and so it's we know it takes a village, and it's going to take every single one of them to be ready to compete and to help us get better in practice to continue to move this program forward. And I'm just proud of the group of women that I have on the floor that are working really hard to continue to get better.
One of those elite hitters has been middle Erin Moss, who has really seen an increase in playing time and stepped up her efforts in her second campaign. Here is Erin about that increased playing time and what it's meant for her.
It was really exciting to be able to play in the fall. And that just came from just a lot of hard work, a lot of behind the scenes work that, I just had to put in. And I feel really confident in my skills now. I think going into this part of the season, I'm looking to improve on my defense and to just be a big contributor to our offense as well.
Now, individually, junior outside hitter Marianna Brambilla leads the nation, or currently tied, she leads the nation in kills during a 3-match set. Let me say that again. Because it's an interesting stat. It's very good. Individually, junior outside hitter Marianna Brambilla is currently tied for the nation lead in kills during a 3-set match with 23. So during one of the wins, one of those sweeps earlier in the fall, she had 23 kills, which is the most right now in the nation. And overall, she's third in the ACC and 28th in the nation in points per set. Here is Marianna about the team's return for the spring.
It feels very exciting, especially because we played in the fall and now we're going to play in the spring. So it's basically going to be a whole year of volleyball, which is really nice because we love to play and compete. So it's going to be different, but I think we are very excited to start playing and try our best this season.
And the last audio we have from Georgia Tech volleyball is, and we speak with Michelle quite a bit. She's been very great to us, and defense always comes up every time we discuss the team or speak about the team. And I asked her, was that an area of improvement or focus for this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, just as a team overall, we know that on the side outside, our stats are great, our numbers are great, but we know that blocking, it's something that we need to get better as a team. I think that we have done a great job of executing defensively against teams, even though we're not blocking tons of balls. But we do feel like that there is an area that as we keep growing as a team, that it's going to have to take the biggest jump, I think, on what we need to do to be able to consistently compete with the teams that are at the top. We have to be a better blocking team. And so it's been a big focus of us during this time to really try to get better, but also not lose our strengths and the things that we do really well, because I think we're being very efficient with that. We have a balanced offense. I think that we play great defense, but we do need to do a better job with our blocking and be a little more efficient with the blocking side. So that has been something that we have had, we've been spending a lot of time on this off season individually and as a team, mostly to just get better at recognizing situations and responding better as blockers.
And once again, that was Michelle Collier, head coach of Georgia Tech volleyball. The Yellow Jackets, as I mentioned, are facing Virginia and Pittsburgh this weekend. So we'll be keeping track of that contest or those contests. We're also able to catch up with Georgia State beach volleyball head coach Beth Van Fleet as the team is preparing to play in the Tiger Beach Challenge this weekend, which includes matches against top 5 ranked teams, Florida State, and host LSU. Here's our exclusive interview with Coach Van Fleet. You finally opened up your season and you had your tournament down in Florida at the Seminole Beach Classic or Bash. Overall impressions how the team performed, and then we'll get to specifics of the groupings.
Sure. We had a very successful opening weekend. We started our first day playing the number 6 and the number 8 teams in the country and played pretty well. The team agreed we didn't really play to our standard, but it was a lot of learning, and it's a great opportunity playing against West Coast schools because they're not in our conference, and those games don't really factor into any sort of national championship decisions. And so it was a great, in a sense, warm up for the whole season for us. And then we came back on Sunday and got to play against a really strong Tampa team and Southern Miss. And we executed our game plans. We served and passed much better, kind of got some of those first day jitters out.
Yeah, against Loyola and Cal Poly, your grouping in position 3, Kelly Doorn and Megan Mccall, they were able to win both of their matches. What about them in that 3 spot and what you saw from them?
Yeah, they were kind of a last second pair for us, and they played so well. It was really nice to see them play really without any expectations. They focused on serving aggressively. Both of them have incredible serves that are great weapons, and then just working on siding out and running a little bit of a lower offense. And they were able to do both of those things well and really put a lot of pressure on their opponents.
Yeah, and then that second day against Tampa and Southern Miss, your other pairings went undefeated from Elise Saga and Bella Ferre and some of your other groupings. What about them and them being able to get their first 2 wins of the year?
Yeah, I think it was really exciting, especially with Bella being her first college win. That was exciting for Bella and Elise to be able to share that. But yeah, I think across the board, we just talked on Saturday about what it felt like to kind of let an opportunity slip through our hands and how we were done with that feeling for the rest of the year. And so I think I know everyone showed up the next morning ready to compete and ready to challenge ourselves a little bit, take a couple more risks, and figure out kind of where some of those comfort zones end and greatness begins.
Yeah, it looked like you kept your same groupings and your same positioning through those first 4 matches. Was that intentional, or is that something you realized after those first 2 matches that you wanted to keep it going for the Tampa and Southern Miss contest?
Yeah, we had a lot of questions and a lot of discussion about that. There's certainly, we thought after the first day and kind of letting people work through the jitters, we believed that everyone played pretty well, but nobody really stood out other than Kel and Meg. So that really wasn't a reason or a compelling reason to make any changes at that time. We're looking at making a couple of changes this weekend, but we'll see how those play out as we move into the weekend.
How do you make those decisions? Is it something you see in practice? Is it something that you reviewed over this weekend? I'm sure you're able to look at some of the things that were going on. How do you make those decisions with your pairings for this weekend?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we actually had Kelly and Meg playing together because Kelly's regular partner was out for the weekend. And so she's been cleared to come back. So that's kind of going to change some things around with some of our pairings. And we're trying to figure out what pairs put our team in the best position to be successful this week. So yeah, we look a lot at film. We do a lot of individual meetings and pair meetings with the athletes and do our best to get a sense of the pulse of the team because they're the ones that are in the battle. They're the ones that are fighting. Coaches get to sit on the side and we get to have one perspective, but the perspective that really matters is of the athletes in the game. And so the more we can understand through their eyes how they see the team being the strongest, we try to take that into account as we're making decisions.
How do you watch the match? I'm intrigued by this because I see in other sports like tennis where there are multiple matches going on at the same time. It's kind of tough for coaches to see what's going on. What about you? And I'm sure your assistants as well. Do you have do you specifically go to one match that you really want to give some guidance to, or maybe a team you trust a little bit more, you kind of let them do their own thing? Or do you just do you rotate through the match? How do you handle all those matches going on at the same time?
It all kind of changes day to day. Like if one of us is coaching with a flight that we're helping them and we're making an impact in the game, then we'll stay. If we get up by 5 or 6 points or the other team gets up by 5 or 6 points, that's not necessarily something that a coach is going to have a bunch of influence on. So that might be a game that we step away from if we're shorthanded on another court. This last weekend worked out so well for us with regard of when the timing started between with 4, 5, and 6 finishing and 1, 2, and 3 starting. So our flight 1 They went without a coach several times, but we were able to have coaches on the other courts for most of their games. And the flight one with Maddie and Eden, they sometimes do better without a coach anyway. So that worked out well.
Yeah, and now you're heading to the Tiger Beach Challenge in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and including a matchup against a ranked Louisiana State on Sunday, March 7th. But before that, you have 3 matches against Houston Baptist, Florida Atlantic, and Florida State. So another active period for you. How is the team preparing for this? And physically, how did they recover just from the previous weekend? And you're now ramping up for 4 more matches.
Yeah, once we start, it's a crazy sprint through the end of the year, and it just goes by so quickly. So we do take a lot of time to focus on recovery. We usually have Mondays off, and athletes will come in for treatment and do some sort of recovery session, but we try to limit impact on Monday and Tuesday with regard to jumping. Wednesdays and Thursdays, we're a little bit more physical in practice. And then Fridays, we have our site warm up, and Saturdays we compete. So going into this weekend, this is a huge weekend for us. FAU, I think, is currently ranked 11th. Florida State is 2, and LSU is 1 in the country. So it's incredible to have so many highly ranked teams on this side of the country finally. But it's going to be a really fun weekend for us because these are all schools that we match up with really well and generally play very hard against them. So definitely excited going in as the underdogs. We like being in that position, and we take a lot of confidence in that role.
Actually, I want to go back to earlier conversation. You mentioned those matches against Cal Poly and Marymount did not have a significant impact on your NCAA chances. For those who are not familiar with how the setup is, what does that mean? They're not non-conference matches, so do they not affect your rankings or your positioning? What does that really mean for people?
Sure. So there's a committee that decides which schools will go to the national championship. And the layout has been in all previous years prior to COVID, the top 3 schools from the East Coast, the top 3 schools from the West Coast, and then 2 wild cards. And so only once in the history of the sport has a wild card gone to an East Coast school. We're not sure this year with the COVID and limiting travel, how the wild cards will work out. So our goal, and as we're setting up our schedule and as we're going into competition weekends, our goal is to play hard and play as well as we're going to play against the East Coast schools. So that's generally our focus. So anytime we get to play West Coast schools, it's really fun to go compete and see how we can grow and what our strengths are. But our primary focus is going to always be on East Coast schools.
All right, that was Beth Van Fleet from Georgia State Volleyball, Beach Volleyball. We thank her for speaking with us. Let's transition to Georgia State Baseball. The Panthers are coming off of a 10-1 victory at number 10 Georgia Tech this past week, and they are now in Knoxville to face 17th ranked Tennessee in a 3-game series. I was able to speak with Ryan Watson, sophomore pitcher for the Panthers, about their victories over ranked teams. So they have currently 4 victories over ranked teams this year, 2 over West Virginia, 1 at Vanderbilt, and then 1 at Georgia Tech. So I spoke with him about those victories, his preparations during the offseason as a pitcher, and the improvements that the Panthers program has experienced over the past few years while he's been there. The team is off to a very good start. You've made some national news, 3 wins against ranked teams. Just how does it feel to be back on the field after the conclusion of last year, which was really bad for everybody?
Yeah, it's awesome to finally get to play a different team since we've been playing ourselves for so long. But I think it just is like a teaching point for all of us to not take a moment for granted. And I think we're all better for it now.
Yeah, so far you've had 2 quality starts, including that victory at Vanderbilt on February 26th. You went 5 innings, 7 strikeouts. When going into that contest, did you just feel that you could have a quality performance like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about what our coaches preach, and it's confidence in yourselves and kind of focusing on the next pitch. And I think that's a big thing here, and it's worked so far. So confidence is the key.
Yeah. Now, were you able? You mentioned finally playing somebody else. How cautious were you as a pitcher, just making sure that because you really haven't? Did you pitch in the summer or the fall? how cautious were you just heading into this season with your arm and making sure you didn't go too soon or too fast or anything like that?
Yeah, it was hard at first because we didn't really know. We didn't have a timestamp of like when we were going to play. So it was kind of hard to picture what we were going to do with our throwing program and however. But I didn't play summer ball because it actually got shut down. So I had to get with my pitching coach and kind of follow a plan with him. We took a few weeks off to start, and then we kind of ramped it back up. But it's all worked so far.
Yeah, and what did you do in the fall? Because did you even have a fall series or anything like that
Yeah,
with your
we were
team?
able to practice
Okay.
and play like together. We didn't play an opponent, but we were able to play ourselves. So that helped a little bit.
Yeah, and then what about just coming into this year? As I mentioned, you've pitched very well against West Virginia and Vanderbilt as well. What have you been able to execute this year just to get off to a solid start individually?
Well, first it's not all me. It's definitely putting the faith and the staff and the guys behind me. So I think trusting in them and then in myself is a big key to our success so far.
Yeah, what about your journey? We'll start with the team in general. You only won 15 games your freshman year. You were over 500 when the season ended during your sophomore campaign, and you're off to a really solid start this year. What's been the difference just in the program from your first year there to now as a veteran, as a junior?
I think it's just been the mentality change, I guess, as the coaches changed. Just trusting in every one of ourselves and each other and putting others before ourselves. And I think that's been a real key to our success. And I think that's why we're able to overcome that really bad season that we had.
Yeah, and what about Coach Stromdahl? He came in just your sophomore year. You a veteran of Georgia. He coached at
Yes.
Georgia Gwinnett, so he's familiar with the state and everything like that. But what has he brought to the program just to have you guys have this big turnaround?
A great focus on just winning in general. And I think he brought one of the best staffs in the country to our program, and it's helped us this far. So just a really great mentality from Coach Strom.
Yeah, and you went through a coaching change with him. What was that process like for you? Did you? I'm sure you could looked at some other options or things like that. But what kept you committed to Georgia State and just sticking with the program?
Personally, I actually wasn't really thinking of like transferring. I know I've talked to some others and they were like thinking about going other places, but I didn't really have that many options um out of high school and after freshman year. So I was ready to stick it out with whoever we had, and it's been great so far.
Yeah, and why Georgia State? What led to the recruitment? I know you said you didn't have many options. I'm sure you had more than one. But what was the recruitment process like for
Yeah,
you to stay within at least kind of Metro Atlanta, being from Gwinnett County and playing for the Panthers?
yeah. Well, first, it's not that far from my house, and it's probably what 45 minutes away. It's a pretty good, cool campus to be in Atlanta. I didn't think I would enjoy living in Atlanta as much as I do now, but it's a great experience, and the facilities are pretty nice as well compared to some of the other schools that I visited. So I think just all of those things combined just led me towards this spot.
Yeah, and what's I hear the ping pong going on in the background, which is interesting. But you guys have been together, I'm sure, so much this year.
Yeah.
How have you guys held up as a team with all the testing and the quarantines, and I'm sure distancing and all the things you have to go through this year? How are you guys just keeping it
Yeah,
together?
it's been tough. Yeah, it's been tough, but we've followed pretty much all the guidelines and everything that we were told just to be able to play because that's our focus. Just get on the field and win ball games. So keeping together and with our wearing our masks everywhere. However, but yeah, we've followed those guidelines just to make sure we can play.
And lastly, you head back to the state of Tennessee and face the University of Tennessee and the Volunteers, another nationally ranked team. Your guys' schedule is the toughest in the nation if you look at it overall. But now you face another ranked opponent. I'm sure it'll be a very competitive contest. What are you guys looking to execute and do well to come out with some victories?
Yeah, we're just looking to I guess follow our strengths of how we've been doing to start off the year, like pitching and hitting as well. So I think just following our coaching staff and what they have us do and following their plan series at Tennessee.
And we thank Ryan for speaking with us and about the team and everything that's going on there. Finally, we spoke with Roger Kincaid, head coach of Georgia State softball, about their team's performance so far this year. They're able to pick up a 7-3 home win over Kennesaw State on March 3rd. They are currently in a tournament hosted by Jacksonville University in a tournament. So I was able to speak with Coach Kincaid as they were literally driving down to Jacksonville to play in that contest. So here it is. But you got a very good win against Kennesaw State at home on March 3rd. I want to start with Julia Allen. She came in for relief and gave you 5+ innings to secure the win for you. What about her performance in her first collegiate win?
Well, she came in when we needed her to and gave us some very valuable innings that, extended us towards the end of the game. And, a lot of times when things don't work out when you start pitching, you need some help. And she came in and gave us exactly what we needed and pitched really well. Every opportunity that we've given her, it seems like she gets better and better as time goes on. So we're excited about that. She's worked really hard. Has shown up and done the work every single day, done what we've asked her to do, and it appears it's paying off for us. So we're real proud of her and her performance.
Yeah, and you're trailing 1-0 in the contest before Sophie Mooney hit a big 3-run homer for you, a 3-run shot. What about the just getting runners on base and being able to, and actually also had another home run by Ellie Doolittle and Skylar Moser. So you hit 3 home runs in the contest, and Moser was actually the 3-run shot. But 3 home runs, you're able to use the long ball and get more people on base. What about the offensive effort of the Panthers?
Well, it was good. We came back from a 1-0 deficit. Actually, Emily Brown hit the home run to tie
Right, Emily Brown, yes.
And it kind of got us back. Yeah, kind of got us back in the game. We got pretty juiced up. I don't know if you saw any of the highlights, but it was exciting for us. She's a slapper, so not normally known to hit the ball out of the park. But I told her at the beginning of the year I thought she'd get 5 this year, so she's got 2. So we're almost halfway there. But that was really exciting. Kind of jump started the offense a little bit.
Yeah, and that's a Moser. She hit the 3-run homer. Okay.
Hit the 3-run homer.
Mm-hmm.
Right. When Mooney hit the 2-run homer, it was an opposite field shot, really good barrel on the ball, and we've been looking for her to do that. She's coming along, so that was good. And then faced a little adversity and gave up a run. They creep back in it, and all of a sudden Sky shows up and hits a really, really nice ball to dead center field. Just killed the ball and gave us breathing room there, which is really valuable for our pitching, also for our defense. So kind of gave us a good shot in the arm there going into the last inning.
Yeah, and then Doolittle was the one. She got the save in the contest. She put her
She did.
in. Yeah, she was the one who got the save. I misread my notes. But yeah, she's the one who got the save for you. She inherited some runners on base and was able to get a few groundouts for you to get her first collegiate save. What about her being put in that position and executing for you?
Well, Coach E has been coaching her up, and she's been working her on. We actually put her in a table of experience for her, shut them out for 2 innings, and so we had confidence she'd come in and shut the door for us. And she just came in, man, didn't act like a freshman, got in the circle and did a job, got us out of it, and got us a dub. So we're real proud of her and the effort that she's put in. And with Julia and also with Doolittle, we feel like they've only touched the surface of what they're capable of doing. So we look forward to seeing how all that progresses and watch it get better as time goes on.
Yeah, and now you're heading literally on the road as we're speaking to Jacksonville, Florida, to be in an event. You start off with Buffalo, and you face Jacksonville University twice as well. Where do you see the team right now, and what are you looking to see that it gets better at or continue to do well as you head towards your next 4 games?
Well, sports is all about momentum, and that win last night put us in a good place. And I feel like we got a good vibe going on, good momentum. So we got 5 games this weekend, and I'm looking for us to go down and compete, win 5 games. But the kids are believing that they can win. And after this weekend, when we didn't win 2 games, I told them, I said, hey, we're in a good place, but we got to start closing the deal. I mean, they're playing like they're a good team, but at the end of the day, you got to go get the W. And we did that last night against our crosstown rival, and I think that makes everybody feel good about where we're at. But you're only as good as your next start, so we got to get busy, make sure we ride that wave, and continue getting better every time we go out there.
And we thank Coach Kincaid for speaking with us and about the team and what things are doing there. And that concludes today's show. Thanks for listening to our broadcast. As always, if you want to follow everything that we're doing, head to our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under Sports Inquirer. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and wherever you get your podcast or audio content. Just do a search for us under the Sports Inquirer, and you will find us. Until next time, good fight, good night, be safe.